Welcome to a training video of the change rate screen in PayPak Professional 4.0. This screen allows you to make changes to the rates for multiple pay rate records and multiple employee gross pay records, either separately or together. Use it to process pay increases or pay cuts for multiple employees, including rate changes to comply with minimum wage regulations. It's quick and it's easy. So let's log in and show you how it works. There's my user ID and password. I click on login and here is the menu. The change rate screen is found under the tools section of the menu. Here it is. I click on the button and this is the change rates screen. Now I'll start with a look at the layout of the screen, then I'll show you how it works. Top left, a list of change options. After that, an option to select saving entries to the employee log. Top right, a cluster of totals, one set for the employees, one set for the pay rates. Under that, the main part of the screen, we have a tab with two sections, one tab for employees, one tab for pay rates. The employees tab has at the top of it some selection controls, display button, a list for the selected employees, and a list for the excluded employees. The Pay Rates tab has some filter options, a display button, a list for the selected pay rates, and a list for the excluded pay rates. Under the tab section are some controls for the type of change you're making, increasing or decreasing the rates, and rounding options. Under that, there is a progress bar, and at the bottom of the screen, various buttons which control different functions for this screen. So let's start at the top, and there are three options. This is the change option. There's the gross pay, the pay rates and gross pay, and this relates to what you wish to change. Now, the pay rates are records in PayPak which list, they have an ID, they have a code, a description, and a rate. There are some other factors in there too as well. I think there's some other options with them as well. But those are the rates, and a person's gross pay is made up of one or more lines of pay rates which come from those pay rate records. So you could be changing the gross pay, which is an employee's gross pay record, or the gross pay record for employees which have rates tied in there. Or you could be changing pay rates, which is their listed pay rates, which is in a separate record. Or you could be changing both. Now, why would you want to change them independently? An example of where you'd want to change the gross pay but not the pay rates is if your pay rates are set to 0, the rate is set to 0 in the pay rate record, but in the employee record, that is where the rates are set under the gross pay. So you can have a pay rate for, say, regular or basic pay. Let's say you have a pay rate called basic pay, and you have 5 employees. For 2 of those employees, their basic pay could be $9 an hour, but for the other 3, the basic pay could be $10 an hour. It's the same pay rate, but two different rates are applied to it under the various employee profiles. You can have a case where, in cases like that, many customers will have the pay rate set to 0, the actual pay rate listed record, that's set to 0. The rates and employees are set to what they're supposed to be, the 9 and the 10. So in a case like that, it really doesn't make sense to change the pay rate because your pay rates may be set to 0. So if the pay rates are set to 0 and your rates are only configured, the amount which the employees get is only in the gross pay, that's one case where you may want to change the gross pay and not have to select the pay rates or pay rates and gross pay. Another option could be that you have apprentice employees, or you have employees on probation, and you have a certain probation rate which applies to new employees. Then after the probation period, they are given a higher rate, and you only want to change the rate, or you don't have any apprentices at the moment, but you just want to change the rate for the apprentice rate is staying as it is. You're not changing that for people who come on, but the ones who have been working with you already, the seasoned employees, the ones who've proven themselves, they've gone on and gotten higher rates. They may be getting higher rates, and it's those rates which you wish to change, but your basic rates for new people entering employment with the company is not going to change. So in that case, because you want to exclude those pay rates, you could choose gross pay, assuming that you don't have any employees currently working for that apprentice or new rate or probationary rate. Option for changing the pay rates only, but not the other pay. This could be similar to the case before, where you have employees who come on, there's a starting rate for new employees, but you have rates for existing people who may have gradually gotten increases based on their performance over the years, so their rates are higher than the basic rates. You may wish to change your basic rates because you maybe say, well, from now on we will increase the basic rate for new people who come in. When they come in, they'll start at that basic rate, that's what we'll give them. Later on, we will increase that rate for them. So you're changing the basic rate in your listed pay rates, but you're not changing it for employees who are not new, who've been there for a while and who've had their rates increased prior to this change being made. The third option is pay rates and gross pay, and that will allow you to change both at the same time. And that will also be the option we are choosing for this demo. So we choose pay rates and gross pay. So if I give that's if you wish to give, for example, a 10% increase, which is what we're going to do. We're going to give a 10% increase for this demo. So the pay rates, the listed pay rates will increase by 10%, and the employees' gross pay will increase by 10%. Now after the change option, there's a checkbox here for the employee log, and this determines whether you wish to store a record in the employee log to keep track of the fact that you gave these employees, these selected employees, a pay increase, or it could even be a pay cut. Now that's optional. We're going to do it, so we'll tick employee log, the log type. I click on the list, but these log types in here do not reflect the type of information, the activity that we're going to be doing. This is a rate increase. So to add them, I need to add a log type for a rate increase. So I'll minimize this. We go to the record screen. That's where log types is found, and I will add. I'll add probably two log types. I'll add one for the the pay rate increase and one for pay cuts. So pay rate increase. The unit for that is a list of units to choose. I'll go with incidents because it's not measured in time. It's not time based. It's not minutes, hours, whatever. It's an incident. It's a one-time event. So pay rate increase and save, and also the pay cut, which will also be an incident, and save. So I've added two new log types, and if I go back to the log type list, they're not listed here because this screen was open before they were added. So what I will do is click on the refresh button, and there you go. This is my pay rate increase, which I wish to save this one under. It defaults to today's date. I could change that by double clicking here and selecting any date from the calendar. There's also now a reference which can be left blank. That's optional. In this case, I prefer to add the reference because this will be a description in the employee log record, and I will put 10% pay increase. So when I look at the employee records when everything is done, the entries will be saved to the employee log with this description, that date, and saved under this log type. To the employees tab is the next place we go because you first have to choose employees and then pay rates. There are some selection options here. I can choose all. I can choose category, which gives me a list of categories, and then I can pick the employees from that category by clicking on the display button. There's no bus boys in here. Let's choose chefs. There's none. Let's choose cook. And there's some cooks in this database. Or I could choose department. We've got Oystons and Wadden Terrace. Display gives me all the employees for Wadden Terrace. There are 20 of them. I could also choose by payroll set, the monthly payroll for Oystons, just 4 employees. So I can zero in on the employees I wish to choose. In this case, I'm going to just leave it at all, and I'll click the display. Active only would give you only the active employees. So we have 40 employees. They're in the list of excluded employees. To send them over to the list of selected employees, I can double click on the name of the person I want. So if I wanted Melissa Clifton, double click on her. Alonzo Conforti, double click on him. Larissa Hanby, double click there. So I can double click on the individual names to send someone from the excluded side to the selected side. Likewise, I can double click to remove them from the selected side to the excluded side. I can also click on these two buttons here. There's an all and a none. If I click on all employees are listed in the selected list. If I click on none, all employees are moved to the excluded list. Also note the column headers. I can sort the employees by clicking on the column headers. I believe this list is sorted by last name, first name. If I just want to click by name alone, it will sort them like this. Last name ascending or descending, first name ascending, descending. I can use employee number. This database doesn't have one. I can sort them by category, ascending or descending. I can sort them by department, ascending or descending. And the same thing for the ones in the selected list. Oh, by the way, you're to click on the column headers, not double click. Double clicking on the column header causes the selected record to be moved to the other list. So let's just reset this. I'll just say all, and we have all of our employees listed there. There's a pane between the two screens. The two sections of the screen, sorry, there's a divider between two panes, I should say. And I now have my 40 employees selected. Let's go to the pay rates and decide which pay rates I'm going to choose. By default, if I click on the display button, all of the pay rates are listed. I could select all of them or none of them, just as I did with the employees. And to select them individually, double click to send them from one side to the other. And you can also click on the column headers to group by the particular column. Now, the columns for the excluded are the ID, which is the pay rate ID, the pay rate description, the group of the pay rate, the source, which represents, in this case, let's take a look at, let's bring all of them back over here. Let's look at discretionary pay. The source says pay rates. And when the source says pay rates, that represents a pay rate record. So this is telling me that the pay rate record, for the pay rate record, the rate is 0. Under that, you have 3 other discretionary pay, and these are coming from gross pay. What this represents is there are 3 sets of employees who have discretionary pay, or at least 3, because there may also be some who have discretionary pay at 0 rate, set to 0 rate. But this is telling us that there are 3 sets of employees who have discretionary pay. Some are at $8.50, some are at $9, and some are at $11. So for example, if there was a minimum rate change which said that the minimum wage is now $9, you could come here, select this one, and make the change to change the $8.50 only, leaving the $9 one and the $11 one alone. Okay, and you could look through your list in such a case to look for any rates which are less than $9. I could click on the rate column here. There's another $8.50 here for vacation. There's one for regular. So I could do it that way by eyeballing it, as one of my former bosses used to say. So those are the 3 rates for the $8.50, and I can then apply the change to those. The other way of selecting them, if I go to none, is to use the filter here. And that filter I can put DISCRET, and I'll hit display. When I do that, it gives me only discretionary pay. If I were to say that the rate is between, it gives me an option here for what I want the rate to be. So if I want from 0 to 8.99, I want anything that's less than, oh, 99, it has 4 decimal places there. I want anything under $9, but I want anything that's, I don't want a 0. So if I want 0.0001, and there's an option for the group, I will use all. I click on display. It gives me one discretionary pay. Now I don't want discretionary. I want all pay rates that are more than 0 and less than 9. I click on display, and there they are. The same 3 which we saw before, which I had eyeballed. They come out automatically. So as you can see, that saves you time and trouble. If I wanted everything up to $11, I could put 10.9999 and display, and these are the ones that are there. If I wanted everything between, say, 10 and 25, and I display, these are my list of pay rates between $10 and $25. So I'm going to turn this off. I'll just hit display again so that we have the full default list. We don't need to use the filter in this case. There are some companies where you have hundreds of pay rates and hundreds of employees, and you may only be changing certain ones. That's when the filter options is most useful. Okay, so this is my list of pay rates. Let's say, as I said, we want to do a 10% pay increase. Now, if I wanted to change all of the rates by 10%, I could hit on all. Well, what I could do first before I do that is there are two ways of doing it. Well, three ways of doing it. First way is you add all the pay rates, or I should say the quickest way. You select all the pay rates, set your percent increase to 10, and then you click on all. And then you have in this list of the selected pay rates, you've got the old rate, in this case $8.50, the new rate $9.35, you've got a percentage change, and you've got a dollar change, a dollar amount is increased by, and you've got the percentage change here. Now, if you look down through the list, this fella here is not exactly $10. And we will look at that, but let's look at the three ways in which you can make the changes. The first way, as I said, was to put the 10% here and display on all. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say none to set them back. I will set this back to 10 to 0, back to the default of 0. So the second option is you click on all. The rates are listed. Nothing has changed because the new rate is the same as the old rate. Then the ones that are listed, you can then enter the rate here afterwards at 10 and then click the calculate button. When you click on calculate, then the rate goes in for the ones that you want. Now, the reason you have the two options, one of the reasons you have the two options is to allow you to make changes where some are at 10%, and maybe others are at 20%. So let's say we go with none. You want to change some of these to 10%. So I would double click on the ones I want to change to 10%, and the 10% goes in automatically for them. Then I have some I wish to change to 20%. So I set my rate increase to 20%. I double click on these. They go over, and they go over at 20%. Then I have some I wish to change to 30%, and I can select them in that manner as well. And when I update, they all get updated all together. So you could do it that way, or you could do it that you do all the 10% first and update them, then you do the 20s and update them, and do the 30s and update them. But if you can fit all aboard, all on one bus, then so much the better. So that was the second way of entering the rates, where you select the ones you want, and you can change the rate and update. There's another option of changing the rates where I could come to an individual rate. Let's say I did not want this one here. This is a 10. This is the actual rate was going to be, but I decided I want to make that $20 instead of $19.80. I can come directly in here and key in the new rate. So if I put 20 there, that is a $2 increase, and it's an 11.1111% change. So I can increase it or decrease it. If I put $16. If I want to make it $16, that's the $2 off. If I want to make it 17.5, that's just a 5% cut. So that can be handled in this manner as well. Let's put that back to 20. If at any point I recalculate, that will change all of these to the new rate. So if I come here and I put 10, click on calculate, they all change to 10%. Now let's go back and look at this fellow here where the rate was not exactly 10%. I will explain how that can happen. Let's click on all. We have our 10%. Let's do the calculate. Let's click on our changes and see. Right, he's the only one. This one, the overtime. That's the only one where the rate is not exactly 10%. And why would you ask? The reason for that is the person's old rate is 12.75. When multiplied by 10%, the decimals in this list are at 2 decimal places. You can set the number of decimals you want. So when the decimals are at 2 decimal places, this 12.75 is rounded to 14.03. If I change the decimals to 3 decimal places and calculate, it then comes to 14.025, and the rate change, the percentage rate change is 10%. Now this is important because there are some companies whose pay rates are set to more than 2 decimal places, and that can cause an issue if you have these decimals set too low, as you saw just now. For the greatest precision, the best precision, the decimal places could be set to 4 decimal places. However, some customers don't want their pay rates to 4 decimal places, they only want 2, so you make sure that you choose the decimal accordingly. In that case just now, where we had 2, and I do the calculate, I could go back to that gentleman, to this, I keep saying gentleman, it's a rate, to that rate, and I could manually change it, say to, well, it's more, so that shouldn't matter, but it can also make it less. There could be cases where it's 9, instead of 10%, it's 9.9975 or some amount less than 9%. And if you want to make sure, maybe it may not be a problem, but you know, if you have unionized workers or people who are very particular about what their rates are, you may want to avoid problems by making sure that all your rates comply with the percent increase or decrease that they're to be changed by. And that's easily done by, easily checked, I should say, by clicking the percent change column and scanning the figures for the percent change. Let's look at these controls in a bit more detail. You have a percent increase, percent decrease, amount increase, amount decrease, and fixed amount. Percent increase is what we've done so far. Let's make that a percent decrease. And we calculate. And this is a pay cut. So instead of overtime being $12.75, it moves to $11.48. That's a 9.9608% cut. I could have an amount increase where I want to increase everyone's pay by $2, and we calculate that. So the old rate was $12.75, new rate is $14.75, a change of $2, and that's the percent increase involved. Now there are some rates in here, like this person was getting $1,000 as travel allowance, they're now getting $1,002, which is a 0.2% increase. So when you are dealing with amount increases, you're probably looking at rates that are similar. You probably would not want to be applying it. You're either applying it to like salary rates, maybe hundreds of dollars increasing by, or tens, 50s, whatever. But for hourly paid rates, it will more be like dollars, as I showed in this example just now, that you're increasing by. So you increase the ones you want by whatever amount you want to do. You can also have an amount decrease. So you're cutting the rates by $2. And if I calculate that, the persons who are getting overtime at $12.75, they now get $10.75. Cut, the dollar change is $2. The percent change in this case is 15.6863. In this case for triple time it's a cut of 7.4074. You also have a change to a fixed amount where you're changing it. Let's say you're changing it to, let's say $5 an hour. Or, well, it's not an hour, but say $5. I want to calculate all of the selected rates will be changed to $5. Obviously, it's probably not realistic that you're going to cut someone's travel allowance from $1,000 to $5. This may more be for, in this case, if you're doing $5, that may be for hourly rates. If you're carrying out travel allowances, say by $100, you calculate there, the travel allowance goes from, sorry, that was a decrease. We need to put fixed amount. Oh, sorry. That's fixed amount, sorry. So that was a fixed amount, not a amount increase as I had intended. That's why those rates looked out of whack just now. But if you are changing, say, the travel allowance and you're carrying the travel allowance up by $100, you don't want to be at the same time increasing your regular pay from $8.50 an hour to $108.50 an hour. Okay, so make sure that you've selected only the rates that you intend to make, because that would be a bit of a dent in your bank account probably to do that continuously. Your workers would be happy though. Okay, so let's get back to what we were doing. We were doing a percent increase, not 100% increase, 10% increase. Let's calculate. And I only want this to be on the rates which are hourly. So I notice in here we have some rates which are, these are rates for monthly paid employees. So for the monthly paid employees, we're going to remove them. Let's remove these. Just double click on them. They'll go out. And we only have, let's start with description. We've got bonus. Take that out. We've got the discretionary pay, double time, entertainment allowance. That goes out. We're not going to be increasing that. NS refunds doesn't apply. Other set to 0, that doesn't apply. Regular salary, that comes out. We're only changing for the weekly paid employees. Service charge, no. Travel allowance, no. Triple time, and there's some vacation rates in here. Those will stay as well. So I now click on calculate. These are my new rates listed here. And I'm okay with this. We'll leave this one as the 10.0392. And we are ready to go. As you can see, the print button and the update button are now enabled. The print button is enabled and the update button, they're enabled when you have rates ready to change. I highly recommend that you click on the print button to print the rates before you update everything. That way you have a record of what you are about to do or what you have done after you've done it. So to click on print, let's hit preview. And this is a list of, it's 14 pages long. This is the change rates report. It says change rates for pay rates and gross pay, and it gives a list of the employees, first of all, whose rates are who have been selected for rate changes. That's page 1, and that's 2 pages for that. The next page is the pay rates which were selected and the amounts that they were selected to be. This here is our overtime rate. That was the 10.0392. So there are 24 pay rates listed here. The next pages show the employees whose rates are to be changed. First of all, you have the employee ID and the pay rate ID in this column. Then you have the number and the line. The number represents if the employee has an employee number, which ours do not have, it would appear here. This is blank. Then the line number is the line number from the employee's gross pay record. So this is their line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, line 5, and line 8. And this is the description, the name of the employee and the description of the pay rate. This is the old rate. This is the new rate. This is the dollar change, and this is the percent change. And this is repeated for each employee. So this one has Carol Beavy. She has 6 pay rates change. Kerry Bryan, 6 pay rates change. David Bryan, 6 pay rates change. Melissa Clifton, 2 pay rates. Well, listed. They're not changed because in her case they are at 0. Go down through the list. It's quite a number of them. And this is good for your record keeping purposes and also to track back what was done. So it's advisable that you keep a printout of this. And there are 40 employees listed here whose pay rates are set to change. That ties in with the 40 on the list here. So we have our printout. You can save it as a PDF if you like to save paper. You can print it as well. As with the as we advised in the video for the special payments, when you're doing vacation pay, you make your printout. It's a good idea to save these documents as PDFs, maybe on your server, maybe on some special folder somewhere where you can access them again. Save them in a folder called maybe rate changes, and you have your printout to refer to in future. So I'm going to close here, and then we're going to make our changes. So let's go to an employee screen, and what I'm going to do to show you the effect of the changes, I'm going to go to an employee screen to show you before and after, that type of thing. So we come here. I want to have 2 employee screens. I want to have a before one and after one. And for an employee who is in the list, to make sure that we're getting that it's working the way it's supposed to. Now let's go with Carol Beavy. So first, there she is. Hi, Carol. There she is again. This screen on the left shows her current rate. The screen on the right shows it as well. Let's just stretch them over a bit so that we can see some more of the columns there. So as you can see, these are her rates: $8.50, $12.75, $17, and $25.50. And those rates are supposed to change. So that's when I hit the update button, which I've not done yet. So let's go back, and we printed it, so we should have, there she is. Let's hit print and preview again. I just want to see for her. I think that was on page 4, was it? Yes, page 4. So her rates are to be changed so that the regular is to change from $8.50 to $9.35. The $12.75 to change to $14.03. The $17 to go to $8.70. The $25 to go to $28.05. And she has 2 at $8.50, which is the vacation, and the discretionary pay. And those are listed here as well. Vacation and discretionary pay. They should go to 935. So we are going to see how it works, or see your video presenter make a very big goof. So let's click on update. It says, are you sure you want to update the selected pay rates now? I click on yes, and there you go. That was 40 employees, their pay rates, their gross pay rates just being changed, supposedly. So here's Carol BV. I will just come here and refresh our record and press enter. Regular has changed to 950. Overtime 1403. Double time 1870. Triple time 2805. The vacation is 935 and the discretionary is 935. So it has worked, even down to this 1403 with the rounding difference that you saw. So there you have it. That is the rate increase done. Now let's also look at the employee log and see what we've got in there. Employee log, and I click on last, and there's it says highly white, pay rate increase, 10% pay increase on the 29th of May. And if I browse, I can see them listed in here. Quite a number of them. Right. Those are the ones for the 29th, and these are earlier, the ones from earlier. So the rates have been changed for the employees in their gross pay. The pay rates would have been changed as well. And the employee log has been updated, which brings this training video to a close. So thank you very much for the time you spent. It's been a pleasure, and we do look forward to your next training video. Just let me run through some of the buttons here at the bottom again. The settings button will save these options here, the change option and the employee log option. It will also save the position of your dividers here and there. The reset button will clear your settings and reset them to the defaults. The refresh button refreshes the list of log types, as you saw after I added the pay cut and pay rate increase log types. The video button will open this video in your screen and show you the YouTube video in your browser. And the exit button will close the screen, and that brings this video to a close. Once again, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, and see you next time.